There you go. Let's see. I don't know how to get rid of that. Are people seeing that on their screen? Or is it just my presentation right now?
No, it showed up on my screen as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay.
I just clicked got it and it moved. It's just a slide now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. It's right in the middle of mine and I can't get rid of it because I don't have a cursor, but that's, I guess, the curse of computers. I'll just go ahead and go. I'm Roger Eberhardt, a member of the Meridian Energy team. And the Meridian Energy team is a group of volunteer folks who have been working with the township to help implement the township's climate sustainability plan. And we're sponsoring this Solarize Meridian program along with the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. And tonight's Solarize Meridian program also includes the solar homeowners, Kris Parnell and Bruce Fornever, who have graciously helped not only put the presentation together, but have volunteered to spend some time with us this evening talking about their commitments to solar and how they went about doing it. Then we also have Pete Morgan from Absolute Solar, who will help us with some of the details of the Solarize Meridian program, as well as some installation ideas. So I'm going to have to go back out of here for just a minute and figure out how to get rid of this screen. Tonight's agenda is pretty straightforward. We'll a quick system overview to go over some of the terminology. Then Kris and Bruce are going to talk a little bit about their solar system, as I mentioned, and then at the end we'll do some basic solar stuff with Pete Morgan, and then we'll have a time for questions and answers with all four of us, for those of you that might have questions about installing solar on your home. I wanted to start off with just a real quick overview of the basic solar system. We'll be using a little bit of terminology here, and I'm going to assume that there will be some who are basically starting from zero. If you decide to do solar, you'll have panels mounted on your roof on a mounting racking system or on the ground. Behind the solar panels will be some optimizers that literally optimize the direct current, the DC power, which sends it down to an inverter that changes it into alternating current, which is what your house uses and which is also what you get from the utility. The AC power comes from the inverter, then goes into your circuit breaker panel, wherever that is in your house. And the circuit breaker panel is where the solar power is connected to the utility power, just through the addition of an additional circuit breaker in your panel. From there, it goes into your home and is used. And in this diagram, the green line goes to the utility, or actually it's a two-way line, because all of you on Consumers Energy have a two-way meter that reads electricity going both directions. So the power can come from the utility pole and go into your circuit breaker panel, or if you're producing more electricity than you're using, it goes backwards and goes out to the utility. And we'll talk a little bit more later about how that works and the financing of that arrangement. So this is not a complicated system, just solar panels going into an inverter connected to your circuit breaker panel. And Kris and Bruce have some specific information there later about how that installation is on their house. And then if you want to, Pete Morgan can get into some details about what each component, what it actually looks like and what it is. So with that, we'll start going into the information from Kris and Bruce, and you can talk a little bit about, I guess, starting off with why you went solar.
Hi, my name is Kris, and this is my husband, Bruce. We've been asked to speak tonight about our experiences getting solar power. So our main reason for getting solar was to decrease our dependence on fossil fuel or to go green. Of course, it also decreased our utility bills. The panels can last for 25 plus years. We felt like it would increase our property value, and there's no increase in property taxes. There's no maintenance. So those are the main reasons that we did that. And then as far as picking an installer, we actually had a couple different friends with solar power that we started off just talking to them about their experiences getting solar power and about their installers. And then we ended up having conversations with those installers. We got price quotes. The two systems that our friends have, one person has a solar array on the ground and one has a rooftop unit. And so, we kind of talked about the different options with that and what would be best for us. We compared the overall costs, the kind of the break-even point at which the system ends up paying for itself, and what the warranty on the system would be. And then we basically picked the best plan for us and for our house. And we ended up going with a installer out of the Detroit area, distributed power.
And distributed power, what we ended up getting through them is we got a 14.4 kilowatt solar array system, and the panels are installed. There's 36 panels. The majority of them are on what we consider our backyard area that face east, and then the remainder on the front yard that front of the house face west. Basically it's it's 36 panels. There are 2 inverters connected to the house, and the optimizers are behind the panels. And essentially what we found was, they offered a 10-year warranty and on the service, and 25-year warranty on the panels themselves. We calculated out, he looked at our consumer energy bills over the previous few years, and what we were trying to do is match, get all of our energy from solar essentially, or as close as we could. And looking at what we had and what we used, figured about a 10-year time to break even. The only thing that kind of threw a bit of a cog in that was the year after we purchased solar, we needed to, our air conditioner went, and we got a heat pump, which drove up our energy costs that we didn't anticipate. So there's a bit of overlap, or we just didn't anticipate that increased cost. So it may take a little longer, but yeah, our average bills typically at the peak it's about, you can see it produces about 70 to 80 kilowatts peak, and our average bills during that time are around $20 or $30, and it during the summer and spring and summer and part of the fall covers most of our costs, and then for whatever we don't use during that time, we bank. And then during the winter, when there's snow covered or there's more clouds, then that banked is used through. There's been a couple, 2-3 months where we've had bills that were similar to our previous bills. But for the majority of the year, it's in that $20, $30 range. We just use this app to kind of keep track, make sure everything's running every day. We certainly can see when it's a cloudy day or snow covered. And it's a very simple, very easy way to keep track of how things are working. And if there's any problems, it shows up on this app, and we can contact distributed power to help with that.
So you can look at the day-to-day production, you can look at over the whole month, and you can compare year to year. It's kind of fun to look at, and this time of year when it's getting sunnier, we enjoy, like, if we have a day where it's 70 or 80 kilowatts that we produced, it's, fun to look at.
Yeah. And it's nice also, they will compare, if you look at the graphs as they give you options, you can compare monthly, you can compare yearly. The barcode or the bar graphs are color coded to different months and different years. So depending on what you want to compare, a month comparison to last year or the whole year comparison over the past year or two. We've only had the system, I say, going on a year and a half now. So we're still kind of finding new things about it.
That's great, thanks. It looks like you've had the system for a year and a half and you're probably over 15 million watt hours. So that's pretty cool. Was that it for what you folks wanted to say? So I've got a couple of slides here to talk a little bit about some of the incentives. We've got both federal incentives as well as our Solarize Meridian incentives going on right now. Maybe most of you know right now there's a federal tax credit for 26% for the rest of 2022. It does go down a bit in 2023, and it's currently scheduled to be 0 the year after that. But there is a potential talk about renewal in Congress of the federal tax credit. It's a genuine credit. It comes right off the taxes that you owe. So it's a significant incentive for installing renewable energy, and that includes both the equipment as well as the labor, everything that's included in your contract. The Solarize Meridian program is an extra incentive. There are no state incentives, I should mention, but the Solarize Meridian is an extra incentive for those of you that are participating in our program. Each meeting attendee who decides to buy a solar system as a result of this meeting gets another 1% discount for everyone. So for example, if 8 group members decide to buy, everybody gets an 8% discount off their system. And if 15 members decide to buy, then everybody gets a 15% discount off the system. Pete can describe a little bit more in detail of how that actually works in his part of the presentation later. But it's a significant incentive for those of you that are interested in doing it right now, or actually not literally right now, but within the installation period here for Solarize Meridian. So I'm glad you're on here. I hope that that works out to be worthwhile, and I'm hoping that at least 15 folks on here sign up to have the system installed. I mentioned earlier this idea of a two-way setup for your meters on consumers' energy. Those of you that sign up for solar will be part of their distributed generation tariff. And the way it works is energy that you produce, as Kris and Bruce described, first goes into your home. Consumers' energy has nothing to do with that. They don't meter it. If you produce solar energy and you're using it, it goes to your home, it's yours. If you produce excess electricity, if you're producing more electricity than you're using, it goes out to the utility, consumers' energy. And they give you a bill credit for that energy, which is about half of the retail rate. And as Kris and Bruce mentioned, typically in the summer, you may produce, depending on the size of your system, of course, you may produce more than you use and get bill credits. And in the winter, you will very likely produce less than you use, which means that you'll be using your bill credits. So the overall, it's an exceptionally good deal to produce your own power from a financial standpoint. And the system can't be any larger than what you use on a typical annual basis. So as Kris and Bruce mentioned, they went back into their bills and looked at their consumers' energy usage, and the system was sized by their installer to be that way. Consumers doesn't like to have a lot of little independent power producers, so you can't, if you're part of the distributed generation tariff, you can't produce more on an annual basis than what you use. There's a number of different possibilities for financing. You can, of course, do it out of your own savings, depending on how your personal finances are working and the size of your system. You can always do a home improvement loan. You can do a line of home equity credit. There's advantages and disadvantages to doing loans like this. The home improvement loan is typically a higher interest rate because it's an unsecured loan. A home equity loan is often a lower interest rate because it's a secured loan against the value of your house. There is a program in Michigan called Michigan Saves. A number of banks and credit unions participate in Michigan Saves. The advantage of that program is that you can get a lower interest rate with an unsecured loan. And if you're interested in that option, you can either call your bank or credit union to check on that, or you can go to the Michigan Saves website to learn more about it. I happen to know that the Michigan State University Federal Credit Union participates in that. So those of you that are members of that credit union can take advantage of the Michigan Saves program. So there are some options for financing. It is an investment. It will be a few $1,000s. And so it's important to talk about the money part of it up front. So it's Pete's turn now. We'll turn it over to Pete Morgan, and he can talk a little bit about what the systems consist of that Absolute Solar installs. And I should mention that Absolute Solar will be the installer for this particular meeting. So those of you that are interested in this will be working with Absolute Solar for your installation. And you'll all be getting an email from me, in which I'll copy Pete to get started with that process if you're interested in getting a proposal. So Pete, it's your turn.
All right. Well, thank you all for giving your time and your interest, not only in solar, but also the Solarize Meridian program. We think this is really exciting, a way to show that it's the benefit that Roger and Kris have already talked about, and Bruce, that you're using less energy because of what you're producing on your house. There's financial savings, and it's good on the micro and the macro level. So we are really excited to be a part of this conversation, and we'll help in whatever way we can along the process. So right now, what our go-to panels are our Q-cell solar panels. They actually have a manufacturing spot in Georgia. So we really like that. They're a really nice all black panel. They're 360 watts. So they're kind of a mid-range panel, very high quality. Efficiency is very nice at 21.1%. The dimensions are more for what we can fit on your roof, or if any of you wanted to look at a ground mount. We use Iron Ridge racking, which is the premier, or one of the premier at least, racking companies, and they are based in the US. And Solar Edge inverters and optimizers we already talked about a little bit. There's an optimizer underneath each panel, which has a couple of really nice benefits. One is it levels the amount of energy going through the panel, so you won't get any spikes in your system. It also allows each panel to work independently. So if one goes out, you don't have the old daisy chain Christmas tree effect where it affects any others. And if there's any shading, like a cloud hits part of the array and not other parts, it will not affect that at all. And then it goes to a central inverter, which switches the DC to the AC, which Roger talked about earlier. Very nice, very efficient system. You can watch all the panels in real time. You can see what the system produces. So it's very user friendly, and you can interact with your panels even in, up to the 15 minutes of updates on your phone, on a PC, on a tablet, things like that. The way that Solarize Meridian has been priced is based on the size of your system. And so one of the most frequent questions we get right away is, how much does the system cost? And that really varies a lot because it's based solely on how much electricity your house uses. So it doesn't matter how big or small the house is, it's how much you use. Could be a small house with heated floors. It could be a big house with 2 people. You know, you could have tablets and laptops and lights on all the time. So we size it to your system.
Every
And
meeting
so,
attendee gets an,
so what we will, the first thing that we will ask you for is a utility bill. And that gives the last 12 months of your utility usage. So we can size your system to exactly what you use so that we can know that we can get it approved through consumers or any other utility for that matter. And based on the size of your system, that will put you into the certain price bracket. So if you have a smaller system, say less than 5 kilowatts, that would be $3.10 a watt. Kind of a medium-sized system, 5 to 10 kilowatts would be $3 a watt, and then anything over 10 is going to be $2.95 a watt. At the end of at the deadline, after everyone has had a chance to get their proposal and we see what would the buy-in will be, like Roger said, as many people purchase a system within this time period in this neighborhood, it will be decreased by that percentage amount. So if 10 people bought in, then you're going to decrease that price by 10%. And you can see at the bottom kind of the examples of what you're looking at in terms of price. So the deadlines. One of the things that was put together by the energy team is we want to get as many of you that are interested in a proposal, and then a chance for you to look it over and then decide if this is the right time and system for you. So after tonight, so tomorrow morning, Roger will send out an email to all of you. All you have to do is say a reply, yes, I would like to get a proposal, or you don't have to say anything if you don't want in. If you say no, thank you, that's all right too. But once you get that, you have 1 week to decide if you want a proposal. Then we will start scheduling site visits where we come and talk to you about your individual house, what the system might look like, any specifics that you want to go over, additions, warranty, stuff like that. Then we will work as hard as we can to get you a proposal at that point. Once you have that proposal, you have 2 weeks to decide if you want to buy into this neighborhood program. At the end of the 2 weeks from the last person that gets the proposal, then we will tell you how many people have decided to install and what the final discount price is on the system.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I think that's basically it for the 3 of us who wanted to say a few things about the program, and we'll go into some question period now. I'm going to see if I can stop screen sharing and get my computer so I can see what's going on here. So hang on just a second. Oh, it worked. I'm always amazed. So if you could use the hand symbol, I don't know where that is. Oh, there it is. To ask questions. I think that would be the easiest way to handle this. And I see that Christina has her hand up already. So Christina, what kind of questions do you have?
How quickly does it have to be installed? If you agree and you pay for it and all that, the reason I ask is because we're having an addition done on our house, and we would need to have that done before it could be installed. So it might not be until fall when it could be installed. Is that too late to qualify?
No, great question. So the way that we work on a first come, first served basis. And so once you get a signed contract back into us with the $500 deposit, then you will be put in line. Right now, we are booked into around July, before this meeting starts. So we have just added another crew, so we're hoping to speed that up. If you have something happening like a home project, or you're going to get your roof redone or something like that, we can work with that in terms of scheduling. So we're not going to start on something that's not ready. We're going to work with your schedule to make sure that we are able to get you in a time that's as efficient as possible, but also works with what is a reality for your home.
Great, thanks, Pete. Deanna, do you have a question?
I had a couple questions. I know this is a Meridian Township program, but we live in Holt, so do we still qualify?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
also, we don't have consumers, we have Board of Water and Light for electricity. That's okay?
Yeah. And I can
And,
definitely talk, if we set up a site visit, I can definitely talk to you about the differences in some of the companies. But yes, we definitely work with Board of Water and Light as well.
Okay, and my last question is, what happens when sometime in the future, if you do need to have your roof repaired or replaced?
What we would generally recommend is if you feel like you have maybe less than 10 years of life left on your roof, have a roofer look at it. We can always come in and remove the solar panels and the wiring from the roof, and we've done this. We charge an hourly rate for it. It's a little bit less if you can store the solar panels on property. That way we don't have to take them back to the shop. But then at that point, then the roofers would come back in, do their work. We would come back and put them back in. We wouldn't have to rewire the system. It would just take the panels and the racking off. So
Okay,
in the effort, or in the kind of idea of saving money in the short term, if it's going to be a couple of years, you think, I know that I've got to get a new roof, maybe look at it beforehand. But in terms of getting a roof redone in time, not a problem at all.
okay. We have a lot of trees around our house. Is that going to make it less efficient?
Generally, the more shading, the less efficient the system will be.
Okay,
That does not mean that we can't offset a good portion of your electrical usage. It depends on where the trees shade, the time of year, and we take all of that into the proposals and the design that we do, and we would be able to show you that, talk with you, even looking at ways you can strategically maybe trim some trees back or take some down that would really help your production.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. Sally, do you have a question?
Hi, this is Mark and Sally. I have
Mark.
a couple of questions. Hi. We also are not in Meridian Township. We're in Williamstown Township, and we also don't have consumers. We have Detroit Edison. So that's one issue would like addressed. And the other question is, what's the efficiency and or cost differentiation between ground mount and roof mount?
The utility company and not being in Meridian Township are fine. The idea was to group these together in a way that we could maximize our orders and use our travel strategically. So that's fine. We work with DT as well within the Lansing area, within Williamson, so don't worry about that. There is a specific pricing built in for ground mounts. John, I don't have it in front of me. I believe it's 15 or 20 cents more per watt for a ground mount. I can look it up really quickly if I need to, but do you remember that, John?
Whoops. Yeah, I think it was either 20 or 22 cents, but that's the ballpark. Yep.
And the difference really is the materials. To put a ground mount in, you need steel racking. We anchor them in cement. And then there's some trenching to get to the house. So it is a little bit more, but on the flip side, when you have enough room for a ground mount, you can get it facing directly south, which is going to be ideal. You can't change the face of a roof very easily. I have a ground mount system at my house. So that's the, the way that we went, looking at the pluses and minuses of both. And then we'll be happy to talk about those with you at any point.
And just a follow-up question, if I,
Sure. You just got muted. There you go.
Thank you. I know that this doesn't pertain to many on the call, so, cut me off if this is detail that needs to be talked about in person, individually. But we've, from what little I know, Detroit Edison is very, very different in the way that they work with programs, or they work with homeowners versus consumers, whether it's they do like solar and give good deals, or if they don't and they don't buy it back. I just don't recall all the details. But is that the kind of thing that we talk about individually?
Yeah, we can do that. Consumers and DTE are pretty similar in terms of setup. There's some hoops that you have to jump through with DTE that you don't with consumers. There's some things you have to do with consumers you don't have to do with DTE. It's not a big deal. Either way, we take care of all of the paperwork, all of the permitting, all of the applications for any utility that we work with. So yes, we'll be glad to talk with you about that at a future date.
Thanks, Pete. So Mark, I think you want to talk a little bit about a demonstration at your house?
Well, I that wasn't my purpose of raising my hand, but I'll
Oh, well,
go ahead.
all right, either one then.
Yeah, I actually have some
Here's the
questions about
question, too.
solar. Let me ask those questions.
Okay.
We'll stay on topic, and then I'll just talk a little bit about what's going on with me.
Okay.
I'm renovating a house in Okemos, and it's pretty extensive. One of the issues that we're running into in trying to figure out what we need for solar, if we go solar, is what our energy bills are going to be, because we don't have a year's worth of energy bills that are at all credible. We haven't lived in the house and it's been undergoing renovation for 2 years. So how do you figure things for a new home? How do you figure out what the needs are going to be and what we would need for solar arrays for a house that's being renovated, including significant, which I will talk about in a second, improvements in energy efficiency?
Good question, and we get this quite a bit, more than I thought we would when I came on. Essentially, if we don't have 12 months of recorded electrical consumption or usage from the utility, we have to make an estimate. We're pretty good at it because of the software that we have, looking at houses of similar size and area, things like that. And so even with 1 month, we can kind of work that out. And there's always going to be the caveat that consumers may not like this and they may not approve it. And then we'll have to work with that to find out what they will approve. With that said, once a system is approved at whatever 100% of what they will give you, if you use more energy over your system, you can always add more. So if you have a system that is set to offset 100% of your efficiency, or consumers approves, and then you add an electric vehicle, or you add, like Kris and Bruce said, a heat pump where their usage might come up a little bit, or a new refrigerator, any of those things. And if you can prove that your usage has gone up, you can put more panel, or we can apply for more panels if there is space on that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Helpful. Yes, it does. It does. Let's see. How do I evaluate? I understand you're using Q-cell solar panels. I took all kinds of notes, Iron Ridge racking, SolarEdge inverters. How do we get an objective review of the quality of those type of components? Is there any guidance that we can get from the outside independent reviews of these?
I would say go to any solar panels website, and they will have data sheets that will tell you, what the marks are. You can look on companies online. You can go to the GLREA sponsors a Michigan Solar Users Network. You can ask questions there about the panels that people have used. We are not beholden to any specific panel. We just like those panels for efficiency, for cost, for aesthetics, for several different reasons. So a lot of times, if you want a specific panel, we can get them for you.
Okay,
And we have a premium panel that we propose, but they cost more. And so
Okay.
we can talk about that a little bit more on site. But yeah, just do a little bit of research online, call companies, look at data sheets.
okay. Another question that may also be of interest to other people, but someone was telling me about using panels that absorb UV light as opposed to just visible light, and that the UV light actually will penetrate the clouds and might be better in our Michigan climate. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know if anything on that is on the market right now. John, do you know any updates on that? There's several technologies that I know are in the pipes that are just not available for residentials right now. So if you want to speak to that, John, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any commercial panels that are like that. That doesn't mean they don't exist. I'm just not aware of them. And I do read about all the stuff that's going on at the universities, including Michigan State and U of M. So there's a lot of things that are being talked about, but a lot of those that are research phase, a lot of them aren't commercially available yet.
Okay, okay. Okay, my quick announcement, as I said, I'm renovating a house in Okemos. And several years ago, I read in Fine Home Building about a process called the aero barrier process. And what basically they do is, what they're going to be doing this coming Friday at my own home, is they pressurize the home the way that you would do it, the same way you would do an air leakage type test on a new home. And there are new federal requirements for how much air can leak in or out of a home. They pressurize the home, but they, prior to doing that, run hoses into your home, attach them to spray nozzles, and then after they pressurize the home, they spray a fluid into those, through those hoses to these nozzles, and put a mist in the home. And what happens is the air, of course, seeks any place that it escaped from the home, any type of cracks or holes or anything like that. And the mist that they spray into the home actually seals up those cracks and seals up those holes and such, and makes your home therefore much more energy efficient. I've been told that with a 30 per hour wind, your air exchange with the outside is about 5 times per hour for an average home. It can be as much as 10 for an older home that's real leaky, can be lower for that for newer homes where they have better sealing on there. But with the aero barrier process, by doing this process, they can actually lower that down to about an air exchange rate of 1 with a 30 per hour wind. That would be 1 complete air exchange per hour with a 30 per hour wind. So you substantially, your actual energy usage for a home is, for heating the home, is largely dependent on the number of times you have to reheat the air. And so by reducing the number of times you have those air exchanges, you can reduce your heating demands and air conditioning demands. We are also, by the way, putting in a geothermal system. This will be my second geothermal system. We had one in our old home as well, which sadly was destroyed by a fire about 2 years ago. So anyway, that is my announcement. If anybody wants to see this, we're going to do it at our home on Friday. Their demonstration, our home is a demonstration project for this company. It's occurring at 1 o'clock. The address is 5090 Country Drive in Okemos. Again, 5090 Country Drive in Okemos at 1 p.m. on Friday. So anybody who's interested, nobody is, that's fine.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Brian, do you have a question?
I do. I'm anticipating your visit here and having a conversation. I'd like to make sure that you'll bring an example contract. If we only have a couple of weeks to make this call, I want to be able to have time to go through a contract in detail.
Yeah, the site visit is set up for information. We will look at your home, your utility bill, and we will show you as close as we can get to 100% offset. We can always go down. We can go down for, I just want 50% offset. We can go into a price range. It's designed to help us talk through what your ideal system is. Then once we get you that proposal, and we'll do that as quickly as we can, then you can ask questions about it. You know, we can have a phone call, but I understand that 2 weeks is kind of a tight window. But that's just the way that the Solarize Meridian was set up, to keep that incentive tight and not have people dragging out 3 and 4, months, things like that. So
Right, I appreciate that.
it's not pressure sales. It's just trying to keep that incentive window close.
Why don't you bring a redacted contract with you from somebody that signed before, just so I can actually see it? If that, I'm serious.
Whatever we're gonna say.
Yeah, whatever we're gonna be looking at. I just want to make sure I look at it enough to have enough time to review. I'm really am excited about it. So this would
Okay.
be the kind of system that would be typically classified as a grid tie system, right? We're grid
Yes.
tied back. So, and grid tying, do we also have, utilize battery banks and other things for storage before I decide to sell it back to consumers? Or is it always directly attached and I would still have to have, I'm out in a rural area, actually, on the very eastern edge of the township. And we do lose power on occasion. Do I still have to have a generator, or can I steal some of my solar energy, put it back into batteries?
We do install batteries, but we can talk about that on the system. You do not have to have a battery for the system to operate.
Perfect. Look forward to meeting you.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Stephen, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a few actually. Thanks for all the information. It's been really nice. I was going to ask, is it possible to sort of like set up your system in such a way that you have battery powered, like sort of backing the system, but then essentially sort of like a reverse way that like a generator works? Like, when the power goes out, generator kicks on. I was thinking if the batteries were completely drained, then you would actually start to use power from the grid. I guess the thing is, because of the limitations that like consumers and other places are putting on this, like I would like to remove them from the equation. Kind of like I would like to over-generate by a significant amount and then be able to store that energy and essentially use it as a fail-safe for, basically like a generator. But I know realistically, like in Michigan, we're going to have extraordinarily long stretches of terrible sun, and no matter how much batteries we have, like we're going to run out. So it'd be nice to actually be backed by this, because I'm not foolish enough to think I can be energy independent, like completely, like off the grid. That's not what I want. I'm still too addicted to the internet and all those niceties that come with being in, being in suburbs and all that. So yeah, is that anything like that even remotely possible?
Well, what I would say is we do batteries. They are still in their a young form. So you're right that it is very difficult with Michigan winters to say that we can take you off grid, and we're going to plan on your system being grid tied. But we can set you up for batteries in the future when they are more efficient, when they are less expensive. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you about some of the options on site. We're just trying to keep it a little bit more timely, as again, we got about 15 minutes left for the hour planned Zoom. But yeah, it is available. Going completely off grid is, you can't do that being grid tied in Michigan right now with the efficiency of batteries.
Okay, but can you go in like a battery first type setup? Like
where it powers your battery first?
Like, yeah, so like I don't really want to sell stuff back. Again, I don't want it to be limited, I guess, by whatever consumers has for me. I'd like to just generate as much as I can. And yeah, I don't know. Like it'd be nice just to be able to just use it off our batteries. That way they're not worried about what I'm generating onto their grid. And I can do what I want, I guess.
Yeah, so the batteries are programmable to a degree. So it does allow you to buy more or less from consumers or DTE or BWL or whoever your utility is, because mostly it's going to, unlike a backup generator, it's not going to just sit and wait for the power to go out. it will go up on low light days. When you get into the evening time, we can let that battery discharge. So a lot of times on a sunny day, it'll charge during the morning along with your house. And then say in the summer, 7:30, 8 o'clock right now, that's about when the sun's going down, then that can draw from that battery for that time. So yes, essentially you are able to use a battery to use less energy from the utility company. Did that answer what you were asking?
I think so for the most part.
Okay, and I'd be happy to
Cool.
talk about it more with you.
Sure. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. I'll let everyone else ask questions now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. Hey, Mike, got a question for us?
Yeah, hi, Pete. You've been out, I live right next door to Roger. You've been to my place before, and the quote we got from you a few years ago was beyond our means, but we're interested again. It sounds like your system is kind of configurable, like we could start out with a small installation and add on to it. I think you already answered that question.
Yeah.
What you put these things on our roof, what does that do to the roof? I mean,
Good question.
Just had it re-roofed about 10 years ago. It's 30 years, so.
Mm-hmm. So we have high-end stud finders where we find the studs. We actually flash our footings underneath the shingles. So they're going to be there. Any rain or runoff is going to go right past the footing. We secure it with silicone with the lag bolt, and we go into the studs or the trusses. And then we build up, we seal with a cap, and then we build up the racking on top of that, and then the panels go on top of that.
Leak proof, eh?
We haven't gotten a call yet.
Okay. Well, the other thing we're considering is an electric vehicle. I don't know whether you guys provide any equipment for dealing with that that's integrated to your application.
There's a central inverter that SolarEdge sells called the hub inverter, and it costs more than a standard inverter, but it is both electric vehicle and battery compatible. So if you get an EV and you don't have solar, they'll give you a level 1 charger, which is pretty slow. But if you want a level 2 charger, which is what the car's basically designed for, you have to wire a 240 into your garage or wherever you're going to have it posted. If you go with solar and a SolarEdge system with that hub inverter, then you can wire it straight off of the solar inverter into your garage and then hook up your EV from that, and it would have smart charging features and can charge directly off of the solar.
Okay. Thanks, Pete. I'm good.
Kris, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I have a quick question, follow-up question regarding the roofing. If you're going to re-roof your house, is that the time to be putting in the mounts for a solar panel? Can you get that equipment as part of preparing for that?
We can do it whenever is the short answer. We've come on right after roofers, like the day after, and done it. But in terms of, we want the shingling to be in place so we can flash underneath it.
Well, if the shingles are in place, then you can't flash underneath the shingles. But if you plan to attach them directly to the roof deck, then they can shingle around your brackets, couldn't they? If your brackets have flashing,
it would be a lot of cutting of shingles, but it could be done.
Seems like that might be the easier and more secure way to make sure you don't have a roof leak.
No.
Or am I missing something?
I don't think the roofers would like that. I think it would be very complicated to put a shingle roof around the iron ridge racking or any racking on a roof. It's actually quite a bit easier to do it afterward, I would say, just from looking at the system that I had installed.
Okay. Well,
yeah, not to say that it couldn't be done, but it's pretty efficient the way that we do it. Flashing under it just like you would like a vent pipe.
Okay.
So Kris and Bruce, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just have another question here. So we have the current panels that we have up there, the rec panels, and so if we now their energy use is greater than what we're generating. And if we decided to add, could we add your Q panels? Could that be added to our existing system, or is there an issue?
As far as I know, there should not be an issue because they're just going to be using the PV system.
Okay.
But we also have REC panels that we install as well. So
Okay. And would you be able to use the same inverters, or do you have to install another inverter?
it should be the same inverters.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So I don't see any more hands up. Does anybody have any additional questions they'd like to jump in with? If not, John Sarver has a spreadsheet with the folks that registered for this meeting. And you all supplied your email as part of the registration. So I'll send on an email to everybody, copying Pete Morgan. And we'll get the process started. For those of you that are interested, as Pete mentioned, you're welcome to respond. Yes, I would like a proposal. And Pete will get back to you with scheduling that time. And we'll keep track of the folks that are interested. And I think I mentioned at the beginning, this has been recorded. John Sarver is going to be putting it on the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association website, YouTube channel. John, do you know how long that'll take you to do that?
Oh, it should be up tomorrow.
Okay. So any of you want to go back and look at this again, you're welcome to do so anytime after tomorrow. And if any of you know anyone that might be interested that was not able to participate today, you're welcome to send them to that YouTube channel and take a look. But everybody is still within the 1 week time frame for requesting a proposal. And I guess I should mention that that's a no obligation request. You don't have to make any commitments at this time. It's just a matter of saying yes and putting Absolute Solar to work.
Yeah, Roger, Roger, I'll send you the link to the recording.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so, yeah, you can put it in your email that you're sending out tomorrow morning, because there are some people that I think missed this meeting, and they might want to just watch the
Oh, perfect.
recording to kind of decide if they want to participate, or like you say, people may want to look at portions of the recording again. So I'll send you the link so it'll be easy for people to find.
Cool. That makes it easy. So I think we're done. Thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate your participation in this, and I sure hope it works out for those of you that want to install solar, and that we get 15 total installations and get a good discount. So thanks an awful lot, everybody, and we'll see y'all later. Thanks, Pete.
I'm sorry, I actually had one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Question.
Mhm.
I just had one last question about the
Oh, yeah,
email
sure.
that you're sending tomorrow.
Yeah.
The email, are you sending it to all of us at once, like in the same email, or are you sending them individually? Because I don't mind my personal email being shared a little bit, but I'm not sure everyone would like everyone to have everyone else's personal email.
Okay, that's a very good point. I will definitely be sending them individually to you, so you'll have no idea who else is.
Okay,
email.
perfect. Yeah, just concerned about other people's privacy.
Of course, yep, no
All right,
problem.
Cool. Thanks a bunch.
Yeah, thanks an awful lot. Bye-bye.